Sue's class, and this morning you are about to have your world rocked by our very first speaker. Each year at Fall Retreat, we choose a director who has made a big turnaround in her business, and you all are in for such a treat with your guest speaker this morning. The young lady that you're about to meet joined our company in January of 1998. She wasn't even born in 1980. Okay. Oh, Lord. Anyway, she joined our company in January of 1998 and debuted as a sales director in February of 2001 and immediately became a senior sales director. But that left her with a unit this past January of 25 people. Her production in January was $10,000, which isn't too bad for 25 people. However, 25 people is very scary, isn't it? And so we began to see this young lady do something that literally has created a company record. As of today, we know of no other director in the history of Mary Kay Cosmetics who has done what she did in the month of June. And I talked to every major hitter that I know in the company, and no one knows of anyone who has done such an incredible feat. She, in the month of June, now remember in January she had 25 people, and that was a turning point, obviously. By the end of June, she had built her unit to 52, which is awesome. I mean, she doubled her unit, basically. That deserves a round of applause. But that doesn't set company records, though. What she did was she created enormous personal recruiting activity in her life and finished out the National Queen's Quarter recruiting, mainly in those last 6 months. And she began to look for very sharp and professional women, and you'll hear her story in just a few minutes. And she continuously brought in women who had big vision because she had big vision for them. And in the month of June, her unit alone of 52 people did $41,800 in production, which is $1 million production. But again, that doesn't set company records because there are other units that do $40,000 in a month, maybe not with 52 people. But the part that I want you to hear me say is that in the month of June, her personal team of the $41,000 did $35,000 in 1 month. Her personal 13% check was $4,553. And her check for the month as a whole was just a few dollars shy of $15,000. You will see her featured in Applause magazine in the March issue. They have done the official interview. They'll be sending someone to Seymour, Columbus, Indiana area to take her photograph to feature her in the March Applause magazine, and all before the age of 26. Would you please welcome Chatney Gelfius? Now, y'all know her as the clogging bee. Y'all know her as the clogging bee.
I just needed to start my day with our God is an awesome God, because that really put in perspective that this speech really doesn't matter. But all that kept coming to my mind when I was writing this is I remember Pam Shaw saying once that when nobody knows you, you're not half as bad as they think you are. And when everyone knows you, you're not really half as good as they think you are. And so that said, there's nothing that I am going to say to you today that's like the big secret or the miracle plan. And every year that I came to any event, I came wanting the secret. And I came waiting for someone who did everything that year to tell me the easy way or to tell me what I was doing wrong. And the only thing that they did differently, I knew everything they said. And finally I thought, phew, you know, I'm doing everything they're doing. I'm just not doing it as much, evidently, because there isn't anything I'm going to say that's a big, huge secret. So I'm sorry for that. But I am going to tell you my story. And my story is that at 19 years old, I joined Mary Kay Cosmetics, and I was a freshman in college. I joined basically to get some extra income, I was a recruiter for the college, and I gave extra tours of the campus to get a free class every semester. And Sheila Miller, her husband, and her daughter Melissa were on my tour. And Sheila offered me the opportunity. At that time, I was studying to be an elementary education teacher. I wanted to teach kindergarten, and I was going to cosmetology school as my backup plan, just in case I couldn't get a teaching job. I was all about backup plans. So I also worked as a waitress at Musalami's Drive-In, and I lifeguarded on the weekends. So I didn't have any extra time. So time is really not an objection that I feel I can't overcome with people. And that's where I was really at in my life when Sheila walked in and offered me Mary Kay. And I remember her asking if she could send me information. She sent me a choices packet. I played with the samples, had never tried Mary Kay, had never been facialed. I dumped the packet on my dresser and I didn't look at it for 3 months. And then on my way to a funeral one day, I got that packet out, and in order to get my mind off going to the funeral, that tape was laying there, and I popped in the choices tape. And when you're going to a funeral, I'm pretty dramatic anyway, so I was already thinking, even though I was 20, oh, if I died tomorrow, what would I want to change about my life? So I was already thinking that thought, and then I listened to a tape about the choices that we make and how they serve us. And that was really the time I was supposed to listen to that tape, and that was the time that I was supposed to join Mary Kay. So I called Sheila on Monday morning and told her I was ready to sign up. So now it's kind of a big joke because, it did take her 4 months to follow up with me, but so that gives us all hope because she swears that she was going to call me that day. My number was right in front of her. So anyway, but that's how I joined Mary Kay. I joined in January, and I always said when I joined that I wanted to be a sales director and drive a free car before I got married. And at the time, I didn't have a deadline for that. So I really, for 3 years, was completely inconsistent. When I needed money, I did a class, and I was good at selling, but I didn't really need to sell all the time because I didn't really need money because I only worked Mary Kay for me. And, when I needed to win something to go to a retreat, then I did it, and I was super high on recognition, so whenever they offered something or we had to do 6 interviews, I hurried up and did them just so I could get the recognition, but wasn't really working as a business and wasn't working it consistently. And then in July, 2 years ago in July, my, at the time, boyfriend and I started looking at rings, and that put a deadline on it. And if I was going to do it, I needed to do it. And that was in July, and in August, I recruited 7 people in the company. 4 months later, won my free car, and 5 months later, became a sales director. So all it took was a deadline, and that's why I hadn't done it thus far. So that's really where I was. And from there, I became a sales director, and it's amazing to me that you've never arrived. Like at every level I've ever been in, I thought, oh, once I get there, things are going to be so much easier once I get there. Once I'm a director, and, because directors at least look like it's easy. But I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't arrived anywhere. I still got a long way to go. And it's just amazing to me that at every level you've never arrived. There's always that next step. And that's why we love this. I mean, that's why it drives us nuts, but that's why we love this. Because there's always the next step, and you're always pushing yourself to be a better you. And so I became a sales director. 4 months later, I became a senior sales director. Went to my first seminar that month, and I had never gone to seminar because I was a high I and I didn't want to watch other people get prizes I should have worked a little bit harder for. So that's why I had never gone to seminar, and that was really, if I had gone to seminar, I might have done this a little bit sooner. But went to seminar, and I had that year they had those little rosettes if you were a new sales director. And I wore that rosette, and I had a Fabulous 50s pin because Rana, my DIQ, had helped me get to Fabulous 50s, and I was a senior sales director. And I remember all these people coming up to me at that seminar and saying, wow, you're a senior sales director and you're brand new this year. This is, how many seminars have you been to? And me saying one and then going, wow, like I was awesome or something. And I remember thinking, oh, if you only knew. If you only knew that I now have 20 people in my unit, and I'm not going to make production this month. That's where the thoughts that I'm going to fail. That's what you don't know. I'm not even going to, if you knew how bad I really was right now, you would not be saying that to me and so that thought just kept going through my head that, oh my gosh, they have no idea what I'm really feeling. And I think that thought when I look at other people now and think, oh man, she's got it all together. There's something under everybody's yellow tarp. And there really is. Everybody has this little imaginary tarp under them, and you really don't know what's going on in that person's mind, and what's going on in their heart and what's going on in their business. So before you go comparing yourself to all the people you think are awesome, compare yourself to you. And I'll talk about that a little later. But basically, that's where I was at. I struggled. I remember standing at seminar and pulling Sheila Miller aside, and we were in the foyer of that hotel, and it had been a long day, and I remember pulling her aside and looking her in the eye and bursting into tears because I had 20 people in my unit, and everyone thought I had it going on, and I was failing, and I felt like awful. I felt like I didn't have anything together. I felt like I didn't know anything. I didn't have any systems in place. I had no idea how to lead these people, and my only good one was now a director, so I had no hot shot. And I remember Sheila said, "It's going to be okay," and I go, "You don't understand. We don't have any end. We have no production, none." And her saying, this gave me hope. "Honey, we're driving a Cadillac now, and we don't have Grand Am done yet." So I said, "Okay." But, they're still driving a Cadillac, and so are we. So it makes a huge difference to just start to believe. And I remember from that moment on, it was a huge struggle. For 6 months, that was in July, and for 6 months, I really struggled to hold it together. And we made production, mixed production, and when we made it, it was because I put that order in. It was because I had to earn money at another job to hold my unit together. And I think that's what people don't understand about people who struggle. And I was going to do whatever it took until I could figure it out. And I wish someone had told me as a new director that I was going to spend 2 years surviving. Because had I known that, it would have been a lot easier. I wouldn't have felt like a failure for 2 years. So for anyone who's less than 2 years old, which is still me, I just now started getting it. It just now started clicking what I was supposed to be doing. And so just hang in there. Just like do production, just do whatever it takes for you to hold on to a unit for 2 years until you figure it out. Because a lot of work is lost for the lack of a little bit more. And that was what Jan Thetford said, and that's what finished our Cadillac. A lot of work is lost for the lack of a little bit more. And we all worked really hard to wear purple suits. And I wasn't going to let all that hard work go down the drain because I was not willing to do a little bit more hard work to get to where I wanted to be. So, 6 month struggle. I had 3 to 5 people coming to my meetings every week, and those 3 to 5 were not working. They just came because they didn't have anything better to do on Tuesday night, and I was entertaining. So they really liked hanging out with me, and I was really fun, and I'm sure they learned something, but they never applied to anything I taught them, so it really didn't matter. So that's where I was at as far as doing unit meetings, and I just decided I had no recruiters, and I kept hearing myself think, why isn't anyone recruiting? Why am I the only one doing all this work? Well, I really wasn't doing work because I only had 20 people in my unit. So I thought that I really was working. I mean, when you're not working, you think you're working because you think about working all the time. So I thought that I was doing something, and I thought, why isn't anyone helping me? Don't they want this, And I hear people saying that now, and I'm like, ooh, I remember being there. So when I got to working, everybody else picked up. I remember Linda saying once that as a leader, you're a mama duck, and no mama duck waits for all her duckies to be in a row before she starts to walk. She walks, and if they want to walk, they'll follow her. And if they don't, they fall behind. So be a mama duck. And I remember thinking, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And in November, I got married, and at that point, I was no longer working Mary Kay for me, and I was no longer spending Mary Kay money for me. I was doing it for the family, for the kids I didn't have yet, and I wanted them to have more. And so that was in November. And that same month, Linda Tupin offered a challenge. She had something called Special Forces, and it was for people who wanted to make a quantum leap in their business. Her whole point in that was to prove to a director that they could hold their entire unit together all by themselves with no one else's help. She was going to prove to us that we could sell $4,000 and stick it all back in and make our own production, and that no one should be letting their units go. And that's what she proved to us. And it didn't matter if everyone that month sold $4,000. What mattered is that she made the point that it was up to us and we could pull it together. And at that Special Forces, she had us make a list of 12 women who most intimidated us. And I remember making that list, and I didn't have a lot of people who intimidated me, but the ones on that list scared me half to death. And the first woman on that list that came to mind was Shelley Vanderwall, who was my Redken boss. By this time, I also went full-time into working for Redken. I was a regional performing artist and would travel every weekend to hair shows because I needed something else to do. So Shelley Schmitz was my manager, and she was at the top of her game, 32 years old, company car, traveled every weekend. They sent her to New York, and we went to Los Angeles and Las Vegas, and, she just expensed everything. We got to eat Morton's Steakhouse on the company, and I just got all caught up in this. Wow, she's at the top of her game, and she intimidated me to death. She's like, she'll be here because she's a red jacket in my unit, and she just went on target for a car. But that was because I would never have talked to Shelly Smith about the company, because before that challenge, I only offered the opportunity to women I knew would say yes to me, because they had no other choice. Like, they had nowhere to go but up. So that's why they were going to say yes to me. And that made me think a new thought about who I was going to bring in the company. And until then, I didn't believe that I could get a corporate woman to quit her corporate job to come into Mary Kay. And Shelly showed me that corporate women will quit their corporate job because they need Mary Kay more than anybody else, because they are working themselves to death in a corporation that doesn't pay them what they're worth. And I remember Shelly calling me on the phone and saying, I need you to pray for me, because we were prayer partners, even though she intimidated me to death. So I could pray with her. So anyway, I remember her calling me and saying, I need prayer because, she was engaged to be married. I'm 32 years old. I've waited all this time to find Mr. Right, and I don't want to be gone every weekend when we get married. And so I really need you to pray that some other job in Maley's opens up or something, because I can't do this, because we'll want to have kids soon, and my biological clock is ticking. And she was going on and on. And I said, Shelly, have you ever thought, about Mary Kay? And I remember her saying, Chatney, you know how they do. They say your name like, oh, Chatney, And I remember saying, before you say no, let me send you information so you at least know what you're saying no to. And that's my favorite saying to tell people. You have to know what you're saying no to. I'm confident enough that if I was the person that heard that, if they're so confident that what they're going to tell me is what I need to hear, then I'm going to sit and listen to it. And so I said, you at least need to know what you're saying no to. Let me stick you a packet in the mail. Send her a packet. Shelly Vanderwall came into the company. She quit Redken in December, just cold turkey. Quit her job. She went to her last business trip, quit her job, gave up her company car, told the entire Redken force that she was going full-time into Mary Kay Cosmetics, which took a lot, because for the Redken people to think that Mary Kay was her best option, she was at the top of them. She was telling people who thought she was, that I'm going to quit and I'm going to go into Mary Kay because I see what I can do with it. And so Shelly came in, total confidence booster for me. She went on our last Redken trip with the company. They lost her luggage on the trip. She left because her mom at the time, she left a mom back home that had Lou Gehrig's disease and was doing really badly. They called Shelly on the trip, told her her luggage was lost, called her the very same day, told Shelly that her mom had died and she needed to come home. And Shelly and I were supposed to do our inventory decision, and I had no idea that any of this was going on. I called Shelly the day that we were supposed to do our inventory, had never had anyone come in with inventory, ever. My Offspring sales director came in with an $1,800. I finished DIQ with 18 $200 orders. So Shelly looked at a book and said, I need a $3,600 if I'm going to run it like a business, which that was huge to me too. Like, wow, someone besides me came in with a $3,600. Isn't that nice? So anyway, I remember calling Shelly and her saying, I need to do an inventory. And she seemed real blunt and to the point, and I said, are you okay? And she said, well, I'm just going to give you my credit card number, and I need you to put this through, and I know I need to do this today, but my mom's funeral's at 1. So go ahead and put this through for me. And, I was blown away that the day of her mom's funeral, she made a decision to join Mary Kay Cosmetics, sign up, buy a full inventory, give me her credit card number, and tell me to take care of the details. And those are the women who started coming into my company because Shelly Vanderwall gave me the courage to ask those kind of women. And it is really nice to have women in your unit that things don't completely fall apart on, and that I'm not the fixer of everything. And so Shelly was my one spark out of 22 people. And that's all it takes. It takes one person to not that one person started us winning a Cadillac, but one person gave me the belief that there were more out there like her that wanted to do what I do. She showed me that what I was offering her was really worth the taking. And sometimes you need to remind yourself of why you love this company so much and what about this company makes you passionate. That's the first question I ask my team when they want to go on target for a car and when they're having trouble recruiting. Why do you do this? Because unless you know why you do this, you can't sell it to anybody else. Like, what makes you tick about it? What makes you so passionate that you wake up every day and say, this is the best thing in the whole wide world. This is what I live for. This is the most awesome thing. God has blessed me so much for giving me such an awesome opportunity. And until they have that, it's really hard to encourage other people that that's what other people need. So I had one spark out of 22 people. That was Shelly. She did give me the belief that I needed to go find a different group of women. I went to leadership, and that was my turning point. At leadership, I sat in that seat. I sat in that chair. I sat with all, that was the first leadership I'd ever been in. I sat with all these people the caliber of people who are sitting in those seats. And like I said, you don't know what's under those yellow tarps. I didn't know who was struggling and who wasn't, because we all look good. We do. We all look so good, and we all carry ourselves so well that you really don't know what's going on in people's hearts. And I sat there, though, and I saw those people cross the stage, and I saw what they had, and I saw something different than I'd ever seen before. And I saw that I could do that. I saw that I had one person on my team who was like those women walking across that stage, and I could find more just like her. And that's what I left leadership with. And I also left leadership with the thought that this company is not designed for mediocrity. That's why they got rid of Grand Dams, because Mary Kay never intended people to stay where they were. And it's like, when you're witnessing to someone or when you're mentoring a Christian, you always say, if you're standing still, you're sliding backwards. Same in Mary Kay. If you're standing where you are, if you're happy with 4,000, 4,000, 4,000, and that's all you think, that's all you ever think. And 4,000, if you're never building, if you're never recruiting, if you're never striving, doesn't stay 4,000 very long. It drops really, really quick, believe me. So it drops so quickly that you can't stay where you are. You have to move forward. And it's a lot easier to just move than to try to maintain all the time. I spent more energy trying to survive than I ever did trying to thrive. So much energy just trying to do the bare minimum. Spent all of my energy just surviving rather than thriving. And if I had known how much less energy it took to be a winner, I would have done that a lot sooner. And it takes a lot less energy to do something with the business. So when I came home from leadership, I remember at leadership, I roomed with Lisa Clark and Denise Webb, and I remember standing there at leadership, and Lisa reminded me of this the other day. I remember standing there at leadership and saying, no more. I am not going back the same director I came as. I am not doing $4,000 every month. I am not trying to work with 22 people, because I'm going to change this when I get home. And I was determined that I could do that. And you know what? For the first time, I thought it was up to me. And it was up to me to change everything. I came home and I changed 5 things. And these are the 5 things that I could think of that really made the difference for me. The first thing I changed is that I quit comparing myself to other people. And I know that, that's just one of those things I know that we hear all the time. Don't compare yourself to others. But we compare ourselves in everything. You're around such quality and such caliber of women that all you do is compare yourself in every area. And just to illustrate this point, turn to the woman next to you and ask her how many consultants she has come to Fall Retreat. Okay, and the reason that I say that is because I've probably talked to 20 consultants since I've been here and just said, how many consultants are coming to Fall Retreat with you? And the answer I got was either none or only 5. And the reason I say that is because I'm sure if you guys had passed each other in the hall and asked each other that same question, your answer wouldn't have been, I've got 6 people coming to Fall Retreat. I'm so excited. It would have been, I only have 3. And that's just, would you agree that that's kind of what's happened? And in that area at least, that was a huge, I was in the mirror this morning thinking that's one area that we all compare ourselves to. How many girls is the girl next to you bringing? And the bottom line is, it doesn't matter if you came with no consultants, because you're here and there's a whole group of people sitting at home that didn't think that was important. So that's what really matters, that there's a whole bunch of youth that dragged yourself here with no consultants, not knowing what was going on in your business, and you're still here. And that's what matters. So in quit comparing myself, I remember sitting at that seminar, and I remember being on this bus, and I remember the girl in front of me was a red jacket. This was the seminar that I thought I was like awful, and I was sinking. And I remember being in this big pit, but having this nice smile on my face. And the girl in front of me turned around and said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "Where were you a year ago?" And I had never been asked that before, and I had never thought about how far I had come in 1 year. All I did was compare myself to the whole front of the Tubin newsletter every time it came out, and I saw the directors doing 10,000, and I wasn't on there. And I thought, gosh, where was I a year ago? You know, a year ago, I told her I was a lion red jacket, I had 2 team members, and I wasn't taking it off because that would have killed me. And so that's where I was a year ago. I had 2 people, and, you know, and by the way, Sheila did not know that. She just likes me to clear that up. I did not know that you weren't supposed to be in your red jacket. So anyway, but that's where I was, and that was a huge realization that for the first time, I compared me to me. So when you're asking the question, or when someone asks you, how many consultants are you bringing, think about how many you brought the year before, and if that number is higher, you're doing good. And so what I thought is that my first year here, I brought 1 girl, and she was my hot shot, and she was my only hot shot. And you know what she did? She had just had a baby. She had never left her baby, and she cried the whole way here. She picked me up, and she was bawling so much that her eyes were swollen. That's who I came to Fall Retreat with 2 years ago. And you know what? She's going to be here today because she just had her second baby, and she is my offspring sales director. So I came with her that first year, and I was so excited because I had 1 hot shot coming to Fall Retreat, 1 person that was going to catch a vision. I came back last year, and I had 5, and I thought, 5 people. 5 people have never gone with me anywhere before. And that is awesome. And I came here this year, and you know how I based how many people I was going to bring to Fall Retreat with this year? Last year, every year I tried to double what I did the year before. But this year, our goal was to do $1 million. Last year, we did $250,000. So that made sense that what we did last year, I had to multiply by 4. So in every area that I could, I times my number by 4. Last year, we had 2 pace sitters. I times that number by 4, and I told myself this year I wasn't settling for anything less than 8. Because if I did 4 times the work in every single area, I would surely hit $1 million. That's the only way I knew how to do it. So that's how I got those numbers. I'm not like Miss Statistic or punching numbers girl in the calculator, but it made sense that if I times all my effort by 4, I would get 4 times as much result. So that's what I started doing. Last year we had 5 people here. So this year, before we even had to tell our numbers, I said I had 20 people come to Fall Retreat because we had to have 20 people because if we're going to do $1 million, then I had to times everything by 4, and 5 times 4 is 20. So we had to have 20 people here. And you know what? We have 21 people at Fall Retreat. But it just doesn't matter how many people are here. It matters that you multiply what you yourself could do the year before. So we'll do times 4 in every area. And the second thing I did is I set a huge goal. I set a goal bigger than I could ever have thought before leadership. And that goal was to do the Cadillac. And that was so unrealistic. I accused my unit of having the rose-colored glass syndrome because we all think we can do everything, but they really don't want to work. So that's where we were. Like, Cadillac, that sounds great. Let's have Cadillac. But we had 23, 24 people in our unit as of January, and I came back and I had a girl in my unit draw this Cadillac because if I was going to look at something for 6 months, I wasn't looking at a poster with a whole bunch of little squares. I was looking at, this was huge, and this was on our wall, and every time they placed a $200 order, they got to fill in a little pink square, and they got to pick a little prize, and that's what we did. And every day when they came in, the song Pink Cadillac was on repeat, and we played it the entire meeting, every day for 6 months. And this was our only focus. And I was talking to the director last night, and she was talking about having people enroll in the goal, and I said, have you asked them if they want to do it yet? Have you asked your unit if they want to be a Cadillac unit? Because they may not. And that's what Sheila Miller told me to do. I said, how do I even get them enrolled? Well, why don't you ask them if they want to be a Cadillac unit? Why don't you tell them what benefits and perks come with being a Cadillac unit and ask them if they would like to help you with it, you know? And that's what I did. I asked for their permission. Are you guys in on being a Cadillac unit? This is what happens when you're a Cadillac unit. You get top recognition. You know how many Cadillacs are in the world today? I mean, hardly any. It's amazing that there's all these Cadillacs. At seminar, I swore they said there was like 2,000 Cadillacs. Didn't they say that? Something like super small like that. And you look around and you think, everybody's got a Cadillac but me, you know? Well, obviously there isn't, because there's only a couple thousand in the world. So I did set a huge goal. Was it unrealistic? Yes. How many people can win a Cadillac with 20-some people? Not very many. So was it unrealistic? Yes. Did I believe we could do it? Yes. And I'm saying, if you set this that believed we could do it were people who had no idea how you won a Cadillac and just believed in me. So that's who thought we could do it. Did it matter how many people thought we couldn't do it? No. Because in 1400, the entire world thought that the world was flat. And one man proved them wrong. So I was directing this ship, and I was going to prove everybody wrong. And so it didn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people don't believe. Don't ask anyone if they believe you can do it. That's what I did the last week, Oh, we have to do 35,000. We've only done 15. That's been our best month ever. But do you think we could do this? That was dumb, Even the people who said, yes, I believe you could do it, kind of said, yeah. Yeah, that sounds like, they said, if anyone can do it, you can. That was a nice way of saying, woo, that's a lot. So anyway, but the third thing that I did is that I recruited quality. I quit recruiting women who needed Mary Kay, and I started recruiting women that Mary Kay needed to make their company a success. Women that could break records in the month of September because they sold more and they helped Mary Kay break records. Those were the women I went after. Made all the difference. I quit trying to help people earn showcases. I quit trying to work with all these people who had no idea how they were going to do it. So that's why I thought I was working, because all I did was go help people do classes, help people sell products, and help people earn showcases. Yeah, I was working really hard at recruiting a bunch of people and trying to get my numbers up with a bunch of people that if they can't even come up with $100, get real. They don't have any product to sell anybody, so it doesn't really matter. Not to say that there aren't people out there that can make it, but they'll find a way. They'll make a way, they'll find a way. So I quit putting all my energy into that. And the fourth thing I did is that I believed. And your belief is everything. Your belief in yourself can do so much for you. And, all those studies, I heard a study the other day about cancer patients and how they had them visualize that their white blood cells were attacking their red blood cells, and that, months later, the cancer patients that had done that were still alive. Like 80% of them were still alive. Your mind is so powerful, it is scary, And that's what I did different. I believed, for one, that women needed me to find them, and they needed me to offer this to them. And that became my mission. Because once you start recruiting women who actually work this business, you see that, wow, what a difference Mary Kay can make in their lives. And I hadn't seen that yet because no one was using Mary Kay to change their life. And now I have women who change their life with Mary Kay. And so that's what you need to do. And I believe that we could do it. I believed the whole time we could do it. And that last month, I remember I called the company in May and said, I just was wondering how much car production we have in. And they gave me April. And I said, oh no, we're winning our Cadillac. Can you give me, I need January, February, March, then April. Add that all together, because we did like something in January, February, March. And so the lady kind of, paused on the phone, and she gave me that statistic. But to me, that was one lady telling me, oh, you haven't done enough in January, February, March to win a Cadillac in the next month. And we needed like $58,000 the last 2 months, wholesale, to do Cadillac. And we did 15 of that in the month of May. And I was really excited because 14,000 of that was my personal, and I thought, 15,000, woo, we've never made Cadillac production yet, that's awesome. And so that left a huge chunk of that for the last month. And I knew that I was going to get it from personally recruiting because I got all that extra card credit, and I brought in 7 personal qualified, and that gave me an extra $4,200. And I was determined that we were going to work that until the very last minute. And I remember a couple of directors saying to me, what do you have to get to before you finish it yourself? And I hadn't thought that thought yet. Like, how much production do I really have to have in before I buy inventory and put it on my shelf? And I don't know why I had never thought that thought, but probably because I didn't want to. I didn't want to buy a Cadillac. I wanted us to win a Cadillac. And I remember thinking, well, maybe I should ask Justin. Like, Justin, if we get $1,000 away, can I just finish it? Or, and I know every one of you. I know Vicki Pay, $7,000 away from Cadillac. And I said, whew, it'd be hard not to have $14,000 sitting there looking at me. And she said, oh, don't think I didn't think that thought. So I'm only saying this because I know that thought goes through your head, like, how much do I have to do myself? And I remember asking my husband and waiting for, like, a money answer that he was going to give me. And he's so smart. And he said, Chatney, as long as you drive a Grand Am, you're going to think like a Grand Am director. And so it's not an option for you guys to not finish Cadillac. You've worked for 6 months. All those girls are depending on you driving a pink car and then being a Cadillac unit. So I don't really care what you have to do yourself, but you have to finish the Cadillac. Well, then it was like, well, I ain't doing any of it myself because he's giving me my money to spend on a Cadillac, and I'm not spending my money on the Cadillac. So it's just huge that he believed that he believed, and it was really, that was huge for me, that we would think like it. We had like $60,000 in the Grand Am bank, and it wasn't meant for us to be in a Grand Am. And so that's what I did. And the last thing I did, the fifth thing I did, is that I went out and got it. And Vicki O'Bannon is known in our area as being the person at the end of the month that just goes and gets it herself, and that's what I had to do. And that meant that I had to do the inventory with the husbands. I had to do all the inventory decisions myself because I was the strongest inventory talker in the unit. I had to do everything myself. I had a couple people that worked third shift. I had one girl that worked third shift at the Holiday Inn, and I remember her saying, oh, I have a break at 11:15, but that's awful late. And I said, you know what, I'm just passing through there. I'm going to be passing through there at 11:15 because I'm going to be on my way home. I have this thing, and I was passing through at like 9. So anyway, I remember going home, and it being 9:30, and it was like the second to last day of the month, and I was so tired. And I remember thinking, whatever it takes. So I put on my business suit, and I brushed my hair, and I put my, powder on and my lipstick, and I went to Holiday Inn and sat with her on her break and offered the opportunity at 11:15 and pretended I was just passing by, because that's what it took to wrap up those people at the end of the month. And we worked it to the last minute. At 8 a.m. on the last day, we had already won the Cadillac at 8 a.m. And I remember my parents car qualifiers, like if I didn't get to count that 4,200 I was counting in there. And so I thought, let's just do it with money. Let's get to 35,000 just with money. So we did. And then I thought, 40,000, there's a $3,600 bonus at $40,000, And so that became the goal. And I had Shelly Vanderwall decide at 11 o'clock that she was this close to finishing National Queen's Court sales. Why not just do it? So at 11 o'clock, she put in another order for $3,600, and we finished $40,000 in the month of June. And so that's what we did. Personally recruiting is what this was all about. It paid off in a huge way. I picked my team members. We have 62 people in our unit right now, and 45 are my personals. And that's just because that is just because I didn't have a choice. I did it because I didn't have a choice, but you do have a choice. So you can't say that you didn't choose to lose a unit. So if you're thinking here, if you're sitting here and you're thinking, I tried, but it was out of my hands. You will personally, if you quit Mary Kay, if you quit being a sales director, you chose that option. You chose to give up, and you chose to hang in the towel because things weren't going your way. Because I'm here to tell you that it takes you deciding today that you're going to go home and make a difference to make a difference, and that's it. And it doesn't matter how big your goal is, and it doesn't matter if you've got 10 people in your unit. I see those scoreboards, and I feel for the people. I feel for the people who have 20 people, and their personal wholesale for the month is $3,000 because they're doing what I did. They're holding it together on their own, and they are struggling. And what they need to do is go find them some people that want it as bad as they do, and it will make all the difference in the world. But you just need to decide. It's up to you. There is no secret. And lastly, I'll just leave you with the fact that my new favorite quote is that you can't have roots and wings. So if you stay planted where you're at, your roots get longer and they get bigger, and you just stay planted. So you decide today whether you want to fly or not, and you go home and make it happen.
think order, didn't you?